So first of all, looking at the syllabus, which is the Bible here, November 16th, today was a mandatory day to share and discuss your online web story. The next time we meet will be at the scheduled final exam. We're not going to do this final exam there. The final exam is going to be online. But at that time, we're going to meet up here and read your webisode script, which is your final assignment, which is requires a completely different formatting. It's written in screenplay formatting. How many people seen screenplay formatting in another? Awesome, 3-4 people, okay. We will have, obviously I'll be teaching it, and I guess, you know, if you're welcome to come in or watch it streaming, but it's a very particular format, nothing like the 2-column script and such. So that we'll tackle sometime after coming back from Thanksgiving. Kyle?
Is it the final only going to be online, or is it going to be like the midterm where you have the option to?
No, it's going to be, well, let me see. Well, let me get back to you. I mean, I could make it so that you could write the final in class as well, okay, but just on that day after we finish everything else up.
If the
That's
final,
possible. Yes?
The final is online. Wait, I thought you said it overlapped with like 100.
I can't remember. I don't think so. They're on the same day, but there are 2 different time slots. Yeah. Let's clarify it. I mean, but I'd be happiest if, well, whatever. The thing is, what we're talking about right now is you're going to be in to read your webisode script on 12/21. So that's the last time we meet up. Between then, we have something due on Tuesday, the creative brief to a public service announcement. And the week after, when we come back from Thanksgiving, we have a PSA script, which is based on your creative brief. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So you see that this is due next Tuesday, that's due the week after, and then we get into screenwriting and writing the webisode, which takes like all the rest of the classes that we have, okay? So, and you're not required to be here until that final exam on December 21st at 1 p.m. So that is as far as attendance goes and what these upcoming assignments are. Talking about the... Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thanks a lot. So, first off, what is a PSA? We tackled this streaming last time, but we could also look, Nika had a great suggestion looking at the Ad Council, which is the do-good association of advertisers that where, you know, professional advertisers, ad agencies and such also produce short commercials for the social good. So that's how I define a PSA, a public service announcement. We're doing a TV public service announcement, and I'd like you to do it for a city college service of your choice. So we'll get there in a second. But let's just look at maybe one of these. So we're doing a TV public service announcement. The Ad Council does it for all different media, but let's take a look at one of their PSAs.
145 over 92.
180 over 111.
182 over 100. And I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest, and then a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a heart attack or stroke are far from invisible or silent.
My memory is shot.
When I woke up, I couldn't speak.
I can't button up a shirt. I can't run.
I've had to learn to swallow again.
That's the only moments that I have. And I'm 33, so I never see this coming.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Had I done this, had I done that, hell, I messed up.
Get back on your plan, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Head to toe, everything's changed. Head to toe.
So tell me, how did that look like a regular television commercial? Yeah, like it?
It was kind of the, I hate to call them that, but testimonials.
Yes,
Like
that's the
customer
exact word.
testimonials, standing, looking straight at the camera, telling her what this product or condition would give you.
Yeah, that's exactly what they would call it too. Those are testimonials. Shannon, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like the obviously like high quality production value.
Yeah, true. Yeah, great lighting, very smooth image and stuff. JP?
Numbers.
Ah, yes, the numbers. I thought that was, so this is part of it being a television ad.
I've had to learn to swallow.
You have the opportunity to tell your story visually. So to me and JP, I guess, that was one of the most standout visual qualities of this. And Shannon, looks beautiful. Everybody's lit, sort of high key. But here, those red numbers, which kind of fluctuate each time we see somebody, they draw attention to themselves. Why would you make them red?
It grabs your attention and red for blood.
Both. I would have said that too. Awesome. This is always interesting to interpret visual media because some people get things real different, but a lot of us get things exactly the same, which is interesting. Yeah, Nick?
There were some people that didn't even speak, they just stood around, really.
I didn't even notice that. Really? Okay.
There was this one lady with a cane and she just kind of was like...
Maybe she couldn't speak anymore.
I think
250 over 100 or something. She had like the super ridiculously high.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there was a bit of a narration during that part.
Okay.
Might have been a different woman speaking.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Can we watch it more positively?
Thank God I fixed it.
So kind of like a television commercial for something good. How about learning and attention? By good, I mean, we're trying to inform the population that you got to watch your blood pressure, I guess, or some bad things could happen to you. Well, this is fun. Learning and attention issues. This is a 30-second. Let's see if we can find a 60-second. Okay. Well, how much does this last? Let's see. 42?
He's just finished dinner and it was time for homework. He hates homework.
It makes no sense.
I don't know how he finds anything in his backpack.
I can't find my backpack.
I couldn't even read his handwriting.
Holding the pencil makes my hand hurt.
I know he's bright.
Why is it so hard for me?
He's
I'm
just
trying
gotta
as
try a
hard
little
as
harder.
I can.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
Acabamos de cenar y era hora de hacer mi tarea.
Él
Detesto hacer la tarea. No la entiendo.
Sí sé que es inteligente.
¿Por qué me resulta tan difícil?
Solo tiene que esforzarse un poco más.
Oh, they squeezed that in. So I guess it was a 30 plus a 15 or something.
I've seen that. I've seen that ad before.
We don't just show you all the old stuff. Actually, we show a lot of the old stuff. There's a classic, there's some funny old ones from the 70s and 80s. So what did you think about that one? What was special about that kind of standout?
The overlapping audio.
Ah, yes, that's a great concept. And why would they do that?
To show how similar their thought processes are.
Right, until the end they kind of diverged, right? And he said, "You just got to work harder," and he said, "I'm working as hard as I can." It was interesting that given that the piece is, I bet you anything. Let's just have a look. So the objective of the campaign is to get people to understand the plight of learning issues, learning attention issues, but from the point of view of the child or of the person with the issue, I guess, which is admirable. I mean, anytime you're dealing with your kids, you want to understand it from their side if you can. Yeah. So that was a way of taking that objective and turning it into something visual, something which I think is the most interesting of advertisements. It very often has a pretty clear objective and a concept involved, and somehow brings it to life on the screen in a way that takes advantage of what TV can do. It's a visual medium, just the red readout of blood pressure that constantly kind of fluctuates and stuff, telling us, hey, it's dangerous, telling us, hey, it's blood's involved. It's, so picking, monochrome plus color These are all sort of meaningful choices that are made with an objective in mind. You're trying to sensitize the audience to the dangers of high blood pressure. You're trying to promote understanding between parents and caregivers and children or others with learning attention disorders. And in that case, just as Carmen was kind of interpreting it, reading it off, it's if you're dealing with two generations, get them both on the screen. If they see things together the same way, it's all the more dramatic if at the end it diverges and stuff. So, it's easy enough to do media interpretation like this, and it's kind of fun to be in charge of it yourself. So that's what's going on in this assignment, is to pick a service at City College and then figure out a way of visually presenting it in a PSA. Yeah.
What's also interesting is the animated one is a tie-in to Ferdinand.
Cool.
Movie, so it's like doing the education, but also like, hey, here's this pop culture reference.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Like it?
I was personally find ad council ads usually even more creative than most regular for-profit ads, because they don't have to go through a corporation style approval process.
Yeah.
It always just seems like it's much more creative.
Yeah, good point. A lot of this is pro bono, and so, if they don't want to do it, they don't do it. If they don't have a great idea, why do it? So then you wind up getting the best work out of, I would assume, out of these folks. So if you want to dig around on this site some more just to learn more about it, what's interesting is that always, you have the campaign in a variety of media, but then you have kind of an objective statement down here, which will usually outline the social problem and, what the campaign is hoping to achieve. And, and of course this is communication. And then maybe it'll give us, the PSAs bring to life these two sides of the learning attention issues. So it may talk a little bit about what strategy is going to be taken to express this, all right? So if I think this part of it directly relates to what we're calling the creative brief, which is what your assignment is. So your assignment's in two parts. The first is to write this creative brief, which is what an ad agency would produce in order to pitch an ad to a client like Procter & Gamble or to whatever nonprofit is sponsoring this type of messaging campaign. So this happens on paper, and it has some very specific information in it. And then the week after, so this is due on Tuesday. The Tuesday after is the 2-column script for the actual PSA with a very, very simple storyboard. In fact, one of my students a couple semesters ago was telling me they call it a mood board in the ad agency, because it doesn't have a shot-by-shot depiction of every shot that's going to be in the commercial. It just has some imagery which gives you a sense of the tone of the commercial and what it's going to be like. So apparently that's called a mood board. In the assignment, it's called a storyboard. But looking ahead to what's due on Tuesday is a 1-page description of the PSA that you want to, write a script for, due the next week. So taking a look at this, and I have some examples that I linked over lunch for you, so that should help as well. It says, research and write a creative concept for a public service announcement PSA. Your client is City College of San Francisco. Each student should choose a different entity within CCSF to write about. So, don't all write about the broadcasting department. Just look afield as what's going on. So one student might write about the broadcasting department, another might choose to just recruit graduating high school students to come to CCSF. Somebody may want to do something on veterans services here. And right here I have a link to our website, Student Services, which lists all of the many services that are here. So you might do something on behalf of any of these organizations. Yep, Carmen?
So in audio production, we had to do a radio PSA. So can we convert that to this TV PSA?
Was it any good? I don't know. In my class this semester, there was some, I don't know, I would have wished they'd all taken this class to be able to script one. But yeah, sure, if you did one on health services, Go for it.
Because I have like the interview, like all of that couldn't be fit.
Okay, there's actually no interview in this,
But like
but,
to get the information.
yeah, the information, perfect, because there's definitely, it helps to have information when you're writing one of these, for sure, yeah. So that's good. Yeah, go right ahead. I'm not worried about overlapping or anything. Corey?
Are we just doing it on student services, or can we focus on, like, say, like the culinary department?
You could do that. Yeah, a department, a service, as long as it's city college, yeah. I figure the services are good in part because BCST 120 does let you eventually produce this type of thing, so which would be really cool. But no problem if it's on a department or something else that's happening at City College, But the great thing is these are all parts of the college which do really good work for the students, and the more that people know about it, the better. So. What you're doing is basically a 60-second commercial for one of these services, or a department, or something else going on at City College. So there's a link there in the assignment just to get you out there. And so if now Corey, I'm sure you know the culinary department well.
Yes.
Yeah. For others who don't know a student service too well, I mean, where the heck is it? Try to pick something that you've had some experience with, or perhaps they tell you enough on their website in order to give you a sense of what they do, because you've got to have some substance to your message for this assignment. So Carmen has researched for your project. That's great. Corey knows it already, having been there. So, pick one of these things that you have some experience with, or that you can, call somebody there or see on the website if you've got enough information there to write up a 60-second thing. Okay, so information. This research would be sufficient for a 60-second commercial, right? It's a lot less than a news story or the kind of research you did for your reporting. Right? Okay, back we go to the assignment. Read and follow the instructions for a creative brief in the textbook, pages 216 to 220. Pay special attention to the information pertinent to television advertising. So we'll look in a second at that PowerPoint, see what they say. And then, so what do you need to do? Write a creative brief for your TV PSA to submit to your client. There is no particular format for the brief. It should be 1 page long. Should justify or explain the choices that you made during the steps described following the model of the creative brief in the textbook. Don't leave any of your choices out of your description. And then here is an example of a creative brief. So this was done last semester. Johanna Lopez did this. Excellent job. So it's a one-pager. There's no particular format. It's paragraphs and bullet points. And in the first part, she talks about what the objective is, how she wants to inform about what. In the supporting statement, it's more about the facts and the stuff that you need, that your research would turn on, as well as the target audience. That's really important because that would determine a little bit about what approach you take. And then finally, tone or brand here is what's it going to look like? So in her case, a series of vignettes for web and TV that feature CCSF graduates, where are they after CCSF point of view? And she's talking about the characters that she will present up on in her concept. Yeah?
The Tired Mom reminds me of the University of Phoenix commercial.
Is that right?
Yeah, where they had like a woman who worked in a factory. And then she got fired because they had to develop new technology, so she ended up taking an online course in IT.
Okay.
The next day, she ended up getting a job.
That's nice. It's nice she didn't wind up with $100,000 in debt and no job prospects. Which, yeah, right. Yeah. So I think we can all agree that City College is a great bargain, and that we don't. How could I put it? I think you get value for your educational minutes and whatever else time spent here. So
more bang for your buck.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is a PSA is not generally a critical document. It's not a news. It doesn't even attempt to be objective in the way that a news story would. I think it's persuasive. It's trying to convince you to do something or to think something about the organization. I think we're a good organization. I don't think you have to worry too much. We have our problems, but I don't think this is the place to, it's just not the format to point out the downsides of things. It's more one for promotion, just by the nature of what it is. So I have had in past semesters students who have tried to do a PSA that was, actually, well, there's this service, but it actually sucks. And it comes off as really weird because it's like, well, this is a PSA, it's kind of a commercial, but you're talking about how it sucks. So,
but what about cigarette commercials, the anti-smoking? Those are PSAs and those are negative.
Why are they PSAs?
Because they're informing about.
I would say
my definition is it's a commercial on behalf of the public good. That's all.
They wouldn't also say, but they make you look cool. It either says they're good or it's bad. There's no kind of middle ground of saying, well, it's all right in this case.
It takes a firm stance.
Or it's good, but it's bad here or there.
I don't understand though, Carmen. Are you? Maybe I just don't understand your point. But so you're saying, like, let's say it's in black and white. Somebody's got like one of those talking things. It's like, I got lung cancer from smoking every day for my entire life.
Yeah,
that's a PSA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's negative, though.
Oh, I see. Well, it's saying, don't smoke. Got you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a negative where, like, if we wanted to, like, criticize something about.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. Like, for instance, don't cross the street against the light on the City College campus, right? Yeah. Right? That's negative. That's true. Okay. Gotcha. Now I understand you.
You don't offer any counterpoints to that. You don't offer, like, hey, but get you to class faster. So. Hey, at least you don't have to take one side of the story.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, Carmen, for pointing that out. Absolutely. What I was thinking about was just, in past, again, more specifically, there was some service that the student felt, you say we got this service here, but it actually doesn't work. And then the whole thing was kind of like, there's a service, but this sucks, and this sucks, and this sucks. And it was just really kind of weird because it worked against what you'd hope to have. But yeah, don't let me shut down useful advocacy, though. That makes sense. Okay, cool. I don't know where we are, but now that my confusion is all cleared up, I suppose nobody else was confused, but there you go. An example of the creative brief. Okay. Oh yeah, we were on that. All right. So we saw those 3 sections. So let's see what the textbook tells us about that, because, the textbook being there. So it's page 216 to 220 has the relevant information. And I've taught with a number of textbooks this class, and each one has a slightly different take on what a creative brief is. But there is always discussion of a creative brief, and I do think it's a very important document. So after defining what is advertising, information plus persuasion, and also discussing how important your target audience is, and we should come back to that in a sec. It talks about the creative brief. Offers a coherent examination of how best to reach the audience with your pitch and why this approach will work. So imagine this is what you would bring to a potential sponsor or advertiser. So 3 parts they talk about. The objective statement. Here's where you outline what you are trying to accomplish. And so typically for the kind of PSA that we're doing, this requires that you outline a problem. A problem perhaps specific to your target audience. And it's a communication problem. All right? It's a communication problem. Why is that for a sec? Let's go back to my silly example of not crossing against the light in City College, okay? It's because we could focus our advertisement is going to be to discourage people from crossing against the light, right? No question about it. But when writing a creative brief, I'm going to go to public safety here on the City College campus. I'm going to say, can you give me $10,000 to go and make an advertisement to discourage students from crossing against the light? And what do you think they're going to ask me? They're going to say, well, You know, we actually have 20 other forms of outreach going on. Why should we give you $10,000? Why, you know, what is it about what we're doing already that doesn't work for you? So in the brief, it becomes a question of a communication problem. You've got to make people understand, why is it? What do we need to communicate to students that isn't being communicated already? Or that is being communicated, but it's ineffective? So it's basically, we're communicators, right? We're broadcasters. So our concept, and the way we pitch our concept is, what communication are we going to do to accomplish our objective? So I think that's really important. It's in other words, if we were back onto smoking, the downside of smoking is pretty widely known right now, and there are many messages out there discouraging people from smoking. Nonetheless, they smoke, right? So you've got to be thinking, as you know, somebody who's pitching a PSA to a potential client. It's going to cost them money, even if it's, you know, a PSA. You've got to be saying, well, what's wrong? What's communication-wise? What's wrong that all those messages aren't going through? How can we craft a message that will go through? So it's a communication problem. Don't write 2 paragraphs about how bad it is smoking. Statistics show 20% of people wind up with emphysema, etc. Instances of lung cancer on the rise. Sure, that's all content for your PSA, but your communication problem is more like, everybody's talking about this, everybody knows about it, why isn't it working? What can you do to communicate better?
I think I saw a recent PSA that kind of showed how cigarette companies had historically and contemporarily targeted black communities. Mm-hmm. And it brought up that point and kind of a way to change the dialogue about smoking.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So that might also come into target audience, which is a real important part of this. Perhaps that PSA you saw targeted that particular group, saying, you know, maybe we're having some success with a wider population, but research is showing that we're having not as much success with that particular audience. Why is that? You know, and then perhaps one of the explanations is, you know, if we look at the marketing, which is directly targeted to that group in their, you know, habitual media channels, we can see that it maybe is doing something misleading or something that is, you know, so it's a good point. So target audience is another important part of this. It's who do you actually want to talk to? And the more you define your target audience, the more interesting your PSA is going to become. Picture this. You're going to do a PSA about veteran services on the City College campus, all right? It would seem that your target audience is totally obvious, right? Well, veterans, because they're going to use the veteran services. But can you break that down more in terms of demographics to say, or, you know, even psychographics, which would give you more input to the tone that you take, the way that you approach this. Another way, let's say if you were going for a general, okay, let's say you're going to do a campaign to promote City College to people getting out of school. You know, well, come here. Like at City College, we have students, as you all know, we have students who they haven't even left high school yet, to retired people who are back here doing some, you know, some stuff because they want to keep their brains active and they've got nothing much to do otherwise. We've got professionals who are coming here to learn, you know, how to get the skills for a career. You know, we've got all of that. So yes, perhaps some of these services just simply suggest the target audience themselves, but many of them would benefit from some demographic definition. I want to do a PSA to promote City College, but to professionals who need certain qualifications, right? So you're going to do a different type of PSA to recruit people into the nursing program than you would to just get the general population into City College itself, right? So that is something to work on. It's can you define your target audience? Because if you can, that will give you lots of justification for what kind of characters are you going to show in your ad? What, like how old are they? What kind are they upscale? Are they really young? What kind of appeal do you make to them? It's like City College, we schedule classes at night so you can get in and out and keep your job. Or is it more like, hey, City College has 1 million clubs, you can spend all day on campus and, and do a lot of different stuff, maybe pointed to a younger audience that is, still full-time in school and such. So if you define your target audience, this will give you a lot more kind of guidance in what PSA you make, what you're trying to do. So these are the essential things that would go into your objective statement, I'd say. So let's look at Johanna. CCSF wants to reach prospective students to create awareness around college readiness and access using the CCSF Student Ambassador Program, CCSF presentations, campus tours, blah, blah, blah. We want to strengthen partnerships with K-12 schools, community-based organizations, and government agencies to promote CCSF outreach. All right. Down here, I might have put it in the first section, but there it is. Our target audience, K-12 schools, community-based organizations, government agencies, high school students, 9th to 12th, lower income families, adults seeking to continue education, learn a new trade, transition to a new career. So that might be, you can sometimes have a primary audience and a secondary audience. But it clearly seems to me her primary audience is going to be, high school students, lower income families, so HS. So that's her target audience, right? Okay, back to the textbook. Again, all this is written out there and it makes it that much more interesting. Support statement. Here's where you describe the evidence that explains why your approach to this promotion makes sense. And so here's where you talk about the logic behind what you're trying to do. It's like, okay, we've said there is this communication problem talking to this target audience. What is it now? How are we going to justify this? Why is this going to work? What are we going to do to solve that problem and make things better? So in this case, the campaign is very visual, has the potential to move and inspire with powerful content that can be shared on social media. This stuff where she talks about the single mom, the high school dropout, the car salesman that reinvents himself. I mean, basically that's working on the principle that who we see in advertisements kind of suggests to us who we could become in a way, who we are, who we could become. So very often in advertisements you'll see people who are supposed to stand in for the group that's being targeted, right? So in that case, I'd say she's wavering around the target audience, but so anyway, she's got it laid out the way I'd like to see it. Boom, and then the final section again. Boom, tone or brand. This is the brief statement as to how you plan to do this and how you plan to give people the information in an acceptable fashion. So this is where you talk about how it's going to look, how it's going to sound, what people might say. She invented a tagline, find the pathway to your future at CCSF. We'll show you the way. So that's something that might appear written at the end or said in voiceover. This is, sort of your ideas for what next week would go into your script or into your storyboard. So here she describes the little vignettes that she talked about with, the characters who are all finding in some ways some need that is being met by CCSF. Young adult male playing video games, mom drops a CCSF brochure next to him. Show YAM learning tech skills, okay. Show on the job working at a tech company, super tagline. So she tries to take these characters through, a professional progression. Let's say you could be this and this and this if you go to City College. So there's a lot in there actually, but others that are kind of simpler. So yeah, this one, is like how you're going to do it. What's your inspiration? We're going to show, suffering people in black and white, and we'll put up their blood pressure, and we'll emphasize the link between high blood pressure and, you know, illness and suffering and strokes and all those things. And we will feature women as well, because the general part of the communication problem is that high blood pressure and heart problems are a male, you know, it's of more interest to males, but in the last few years, the research has shown women are also at risk, and so there were quite prominently women placed in that ad too.
And women have different symptoms, which they didn't realize what was going to happen. Like,
Yes.
women experience heart attacks way differently than men.
Oh my gosh! Like, do you have any like general idea?
I can't remember, but it's like they'll have like more numbness and everything, that that pressure that men would experience. But they would have like numbness in their arms or something like that.
All right.
And because everyone was worried about men who did have a higher rate, they only studied men's reactions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's only in the past, like, I think 5 years that they realized women have, so.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So I mean that would come through from, okay, communication problem. We have to make the population aware that this is also a problem for women. What's your, you know, solution to that? Is you're going to prominently place women in the midst of all these, you know, other demographic groups, so that people understand that, wow, she had a heart attack too, and you know, we can see the scar and everything. So, yeah, it's good. Good. So like I said, there's no really defined order for all of this, but you know, at least go with what was in the textbook: objective statement, supporting statement, and then remember the tone or brand is how you're going to do it, how it looks, how it sounds, what people might say, etc. Right? So, communication problem, target audience. Supporting statement is like, you know, what are the facts behind this? What are the, you know, the problems? And I mean, that should be up here, target audience, I'd say, and then what you're going to do with it. Do take a look at the textbook in that. So shouldn't take you long to do a page. And this is a work in progress. I mean, if you pick your service and you get some ideas out here, you know, push them as far as you can. But in the week afterwards, you'll be, as you write the ad, of course, these things come into better focus too, right? If you want to see just ahead as to what the ad would look like, looking ahead next week, because we're not going to see each other, but here's the commercial script. So I'm asking for, whoops.
Look at it yet.
Yeah, there we go. Tricky me. Upcoming assignments, where do I go? Modules, okay. Leave student view. Here's an example of a 2-column script. This is the same one that came out of the creative brief, so you can see it. You can see it come up there. So
it's just like
2-column script comes out to be very, you know, very short, way shorter than a package or anything like that. Okay, and then her mood board. Storyboard. So this could be stick figures, or she used photographs. But the important thing is you're trying to give people a sense of the visual style of it. You're not mapping out every shot. That's why my students say, "Oh, this is what's called a mood board," because it's not the shooting script. It's not the storyboard like every single angle. It's more giving you the visual style. Yeah, JP.
Can we use this like? I saw this on my job, but can we use a storyboard ad?
If you want, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to draw one out, we have templates at EMA, but it really is just like, you know, a frame for every shot or whatever, and then you know, it's like there's the visual, and what happens underneath. You can write it here, or you can write it here, and literally stick figures, right? That's okay. That's saying hi. That's saying hi. Okay. You know, because invariably I get, oh, I spent my entire vacation drawing the most beautiful storyboards for you, and I look at them for 10 seconds and go, okay, cool. It's like, you don't do that, right? There was a great one over at San Francisco State a couple of semesters ago. It was to promote vaccinating your kids because there's some anti-vaxxers out there, and I don't want to get into that controversy, but basically, in order to promote the idea, parents, you should vaccinate your kids. Students split the whole screen into 9 and had 9 little babies. Oh, so cute, babies, right? Born, and then sort of in fast, speeded up time, they grow, they develop, except for this one who's like always sick, always sitting at home. Everything that could be bad is happening in this one. And then, part of the text was, 1 in 9 kids will not thrive from not being vaccinated or something like that. But just visually, it was really a smart way to express this, So now's a good time to start thinking, but of course next week you can also think, but like, how do you want to express this visually? How do you want this all to you're using TV, it's a visual medium. Is it black and white with red letters? Is it split screens? Split screen with 2 generations talking, right? So what we saw just 2 examples of people who are really thinking about how this could work visually as a piece of television instead of just I see a talking head. It's some celebrity. They're telling me I should exercise more. Great, but that's not very creative. This is a creative brief. Be creative. Questions? So remember, this part is for next week, but the part coming up for Tuesday is of course I just closed it. The part coming up for Tuesday is the 1-page creative brief. It's this part. Okay. All right. No questions. Wonderful. 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 So who would like to take a look at their web package?
I'll do it.
All right, Nick. Is it online? I would get to it through a text link. Is that?
You can try. I'm not sure about it, but try.
Okay, let's give it a try.
All right. It's a big fight feel in Daly City, California as All Pro Wrestling comes to Jefferson High School to host their fundraising event, Gym Wars, hosting 2 big main event matches featuring Jeff Cobb defending his title and returning Eminem. But another story is being told. Jefferson High School alumni Will Cuevas comes back to his old high school to compete in front of a hometown crowd. One of my best memories at Jefferson is when a group of us got a bunch of students to wear NWO shirts and even had the principal doing the 2 sweet hand sign. A big wrestling fan since he was a child, his first experience seeing wrestling was going to the 1998 Royal Rumble in San Jose, seeing Shawn Michaels face The Undertaker and knowing what he wanted to do with his life. Starting his training, after his schooling, he trained to fulfill his dream. He went to the APW garage in Hayward, training future WWE champions like Daniel Bryan, The Great Khali, Crash Holly, and a guy named John Cena. APW drew me because the wrestlers could actually wrestle. They were trained and trained well. I wanted to be with good wrestlers. Vinny Massaro, probably my biggest critic, but helped me become the wrestler I am today. Will also refereed for a time while wrestling, citing both were equally different and have great learning experiences.
Check that picture out.
Will actually put wrestling on hold for a bit to fight for something more important than a championship, freedom. As Will joined the Marines in 2004, I always felt a calling to serve my country, and I think the acts of September 11th really pushed me to make a decision. Intensity is what we learn in the Marines, and I think that I bring that to the ring. Since then, Will has gone on to big things, wrestling for All Pro Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Revolution, and others along the West Coast, winning the APW Worldwide Internet Champion, wrestling for the WWE in tryout matches, and even being recruited for a tryout camp in Orlando for NXT in June. and wrestling in the Cow Pals twice, unfortunately in losing efforts to Carl Fredericks, losing his title in May, and to JR Kratos in November, which happened last week. I asked him about going from a teen to a training wrestler to Marine to getting on the WWE's radar and reaching his zenith in pro wrestling. It's all really living the dream. I sacrificed a lot to do these things, but I wouldn't change a thing.
Okay, all right. Alrighty, and are there other pieces of this that are connected, like the summary blurb? What? The summary blurb, the web extra?
Oh yeah, I do have the web extra. The web extra is
okay, well, let's talk about the main story, though, because we probably won't. Thanks, Nick. I just wanted to make sure there is more. It's connected to this thing?
Yeah, it's the owner of, the promoter, the booker of APW.
Cool.
Marcus
It's another page on this site, though? Is that it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, why didn't you just stick a link to it in the bottom or something like that?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Good. All right, my comments, you still need to go sentence by sentence and, find where your sentences end, because like some of these go on forever as run-on sentences. So that's a little bit like what we were talking about last time, I think. Just read them back and especially not in the sound bites or quotes necessarily, but in the stuff that you're writing, it kind of strings together all kinds of things. So what you should do is just, for each sentence, find where it begins. Your paragraphs, should be 2 sentences and two normal-sized sentences long, probably. So this should be chunked up into smaller paragraphs. Like especially this is way too long. So chunk it up into smaller paragraphs and use subheadings to kind of tell people what's going on in each section, so that they can like jump in and move their way around. Because we talked about how people navigate web pages. They don't necessarily read them from beginning to end, especially if they've already seen your story. So that, and when you have a soundbite, you might as well just set it off into a separate paragraph by itself, or if you're writing into the quote, include the write-in and then the quote. But after that, they'll break paragraphs so that it's clear where you're talking and then where they're talking. That makes it easier to consume the story. So that's a whole bunch, but just based on that formatting, and then just in general, the last couple assignments, it's the same thing about your sentences. Like really just read them through and find out where they stop, and put a period and go on. And it really is like we said early on in the class, getting a subject, verb, object. John climbs the hill, or Will jumps off the balcony into the audience. It's like, if you keep them short and sweet like that, it's easier for everyone to manage. Other comments for Nick now that I've monopolized? Thoughts?
Oh, I would have
JP?
cited the sources of the photos. I contributed them.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was
this is probably yours, right?
That's his photo, yeah.
Yeah.
That's yours.
That
I
could
think
be
the second one is, it has a, that's
Fine Art America.
Fine Art America. What a
it is
picture.
fine art.
Yeah, quite something.
Oh yeah, usually you want a text.
Yeah, you could definitely, again, as we said, KLW, just formalize that. But yeah, some kind of source. That's a good point.
Okay.
I didn't realize he was in the Marines before. That's new information that you put in this time? Was that in the TV package?
I mentioned in the past few times.
Oh, okay.
Pro wrestler and former Marine.
Okay. All right. This one.
I feel like each quote could be its own separate block quote.
Yes, that's just as I said. Yeah.
That would help visually broke it up a lot better.
Yeah, make when you have a quote, break it out into a paragraph, and there's a point where you got 2 or 3 quotes run together with nothing connecting them, and that it might be around here. Can't quite remember where, but not sure. I don't think that mark should be there, but I don't know. So it's but it would help to break them out into their own their own paragraphs for sure.
And then maybe if there's a YouTube video of like the wrestler, not maybe for this specific event, but just so that we could see like why he is so great.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Do you want to look at the web extra, Nick? Can we find it?
Yeah, sure.
Are you just going to pull up another page? Okay. Okay, give it a shot.
Marcus Mack, head booker of All Pro Wrestling since 2009, taking over the late Roland Alexander, has taken APW to heights never been seen before in the West Coast independent wrestling. A student of the game in every sense. What we're trying to do here is create an elite brand of professional wrestling. Professional wrestling for the Bay Area and the California circuit for the longest time. California wrestling was like an island compared to New York and the East Coast. When asked about the Gym Wars events that are a staple of APW, they were started in 1996. Former owner of All Pro Wrestling, Roland Alexander, started APW in 1995, where students could wrestle in the garage in Hayward, and those were called Gym Wars. After his death in 2012, losing the garage, they started to branch out and do fundraisers for the schools in the Bay Area. Call it Gym Wars, to raise money for schools and activities. My first Gym Wars was in 2014, was the Bayshore Community Center. It was hard to find a place, but they were able to raise a few $1,000s for a community that had absolutely nothing. Now those kids get sporting equipment and go on field trips.
Cool. All right. Did you interview him for this?
I got information.
Well, me and Nick and I worked together, seeing as our stories are so similar.
Sure.
So he did his web extra on kind of like my story, and I did my web extra on kind of his story.
Smart. Sharing information.
Yeah.
And was yours based on an interview with him?
Yeah, mine was based on his interview with Will Cuevas.
Right. And this was based on
the interview I did with
Okay, cool.
originally. He actually used a bunch of stuff that I didn't even get. So.
Oh, cool. Well, I mean, you should just work that in somewhere so we understand where that came from. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's very similar to the other thing. That the only issues that I see are formatting and also, again, punctuation, finding where those sentences end. Will just make it easier for people to read and process when the sentences are more distinct. And again, where you have a couple of quotes like here, college gym wars to raise money for schools and activities runs right into my first gym wars was in 2014. So you want to create some kind of you in between there to guide people as to what's going on. If you're taking a kind of a chronological approach, then maybe you want to move that up further because it's before or something like that. But we need you talking in between those quotes in order to make that work for us. So next time, run that. All right, guys. Thank you. Enjoy writing your creative briefs, and I will enjoy the web package.